It was all over Twitter yesterday that Joe Budden deleted an episode of his podcast. It was trending. People were upset because they don't have Patreon. And so he erased the episode that went up
Yeah.
from the regular audio platforms, and it became a Patreon exclusive, quote unquote. This is not the first time he's done this, and I know other podcasters have done this too. So my question is, what do you think about deleting episodes?
I have been podcasting since 2018 and I have never deleted an episode. I want to start there.
Okay.
So I'm just giving context. Have I edited things out of an episode that I felt maybe shouldn't be there? Yes. But maybe
I mean, that's kind of the job.
right. Well, I mean, like, have I ever posted something and then been like, maybe I should have taken that out? That's maybe happened once or twice.
Okay, I understand.
But I think that I think that your responsibility as a content creator is to pay attention to the content that you're creating and understanding the public consumption aspect of it. And I think that the annoying thing about deleting episodes for me is that I am one person. You and I are two people. And why doesn't that get figured out before the episode goes up for someone who has a team that does this? I get
Right.
that sometimes mistakes are made, but I honestly feel like this comes across like they're kind of messing with people sometimes, it seems like, over there at JBP. Because they'll post something, they'll realize how, I guess, valuable it is, and then put it behind a paywall and take it off of the platforms that are free or that you're paying a monthly subscription for already anyway. It's whack. Like, either give people the episode or don't. Either put your podcast behind a paywall or don't. I know that people do this hybrid thing where they have, you know, the episode will go to all platforms, but they also have it behind a paywall and maybe you'll get something extra out of it. Like maybe there's an edit that was in the public one that's not in the private one. Maybe some of the language they use is more liberal. Whatever. I think that's okay. I just want to be clear. I don't think there's
Okay.
anything wrong with the Patreon model. I don't think there's anything wrong with putting your content behind a paywall. If people are willing to pay for your content, put it behind a paywall. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I make money. I pay for Hartley headquarters because of people who make money off of podcasting. So I can't, I would be a hypocrite to say that I don't think that that makes sense. I think it does make
Right.
sense. However, when you talk about podcasting specifically, there's a certain emotional connection that is discussed about the listener and the hosts of a show, um, because of the fact that it can be more engaging and more interactive than other forms of media and other audio that we might listen to. You kind of break the trust of your audience when you do things like this.
Right.
And that's what I think I have a problem with. I feel like, yes, this is a thing that you do to make money. This is your livelihood. But what about the people who invest in listening to you and making your podcast big enough for you to make money off of it? It's just a weird thing. And then it's like people are on the internet scrambling to try to figure out what was the edit or why it was changed, and is it a
Right.
different episode or is it the same episode? And that's great for Joe Budden, and from what I know about Joe Budden, that's great for him because he's probably sitting back laughing thinking, wow, look at them go on the internet. They don't even know what they're talking about, but it doesn't matter because they're talking about me. It's just kind of corny when you've gotten to that level and you really don't have to do that because people are going to follow you. They have proven that no matter what iteration of his podcast there is, no matter what content he puts out, no matter what he puts behind a paywall, there's still all these people scrambling to try to find his content and listen to his content. So I just think the deleting of the episodes is kind of whack. Like, you should know going into posting an episode what you're getting yourself into and decide from then, before it hits the streamers, decide what you want to do with it.
Okay, I hear you. I think for me, um, as a person who's very hands-on in all the podcasts he's on, as a person who's doing the editing and the work behind the scenes, to me, there's not really much of a reason to delete an episode. I would rather edit it down and give less
Yeah.
than give zero.
Yeah.
But I also am not in the position of a top ranking podcast in the country. So I understand that the circumstances are different. I do think that you have to be able to mitigate circumstances and delegate responsibilities. And I think that when you have a full staff, obviously I don't have one, but when you have a full staff and people are responsible for these things, then they should be responsible for these things and someone has to be held accountable, because I understand that he has a huge fan base. I'm a part of that fan base. I'm a Patreon subscriber. And the thing is that the free audio comes out before what you pay for on Patreon. It's weird, but that's how it goes. So when the episode drops at 3, 2, 4 in the morning, whatever time, it's audio only, and you have to wait for Patreon till 8 in the morning. That's the way his setup is weird, but that's the truth. So I knew what happened and was like, something is up. I even tweeted him and was like, something up, or this is just going to be some Patreon shit. And time revealed it was some Patreon shit. What I think is weird with the deleting episode thing is you're not really deleting them, because the people who quote unquote bootleg, as he likes to say, they're Patreon subscribers. They're going to put the episode out anyway. And they're going to put clips from the episode out anyway. So you're deleting it, but you're not. Because if people want to find it, they really can. And I think what matters too is like, why are you deleting it? I think the problem with Joe is when he deletes stuff, sometimes he says why, sometimes he does not say why. And I think that's why public outrage happens in those instances, because most of the listeners are not paying. And I agree that leads to what you said, where it's like, all right, dog, what you gonna do? Is this gonna be a paid for only podcast? Or is it gonna be like a free thing for the main episodes? Because that's the subscription model that he has, which is allegedly the free stuff is the regular episodes, but then there are bonus episodes and lots of other content on the Patreon. But then you got to decide what you want to do in that instance, because you're just allowing, you're just doing whatever you want, which sure you can. You don't have a deal with a company. You run your own company, but then you have to understand that there's going to be blowback from those things. As a creator and a podcaster myself, I feel like there's no reason to really delete episodes. Stand on what you say and just roll with whatever happens. Especially a person like Joe, it confuses me because Joe thrives in controversial moments. He's a person who's open to that kind of thing. He's not someone with like a pretty boy, super clean image who's like, oh no, don't, no, no, you have to erase this episode because I mentioned blah, blah, blah. He does the blah, blah, blah stuff all the time. Mess is part of his business. So if we're deleting it for mess, I think that I never really understand that. Just put the shit out. Because he goes viral for all type of salaciousness anyway. And let me tell you, spoiler alert, I heard the whole Patreon episode. I have no idea why this was deleted, except for the fact that he wasn't on the episode. So I don't know. This is all weird. I just thought less about Joe Budden and more about deleting episodes was something that we should discuss as people who do a podcast together and also have our own separate podcasts and other projects that we do. But yeah, that's my stance. My stance is stand on what you say or don't put it out. Like I said the same thing when the Shannon Sharp not edit thing happened, where it's like, oh nah, Megan Thee Stallion never gonna hear this because we gonna edit it out. But then you didn't edit it out, and then we're like, oh, that never should have went out. But you didn't edit it out, even when you said you were going to. So, yeah,
And
I
don't
don't know.
get me wrong, I have entire episodes that have never seen the light of day
Oh, sure.
because I recorded them and then I was like, oh.
Right, but you didn't press publish.
But that's what I'm saying. That's my point, is that you have that control.
Yeah.
And I think it's better if you decide that before it goes out than to, and listen, things happen behind the scenes, especially when you have a team. Because when you're controlling it, you could do whatever. You're the one putting it out. You know what time it's going to go out. You have all of the details. You have it at your fingertips. You can stop it if you want to stop it. I do understand that there's probably a lag when it comes to um, working with a full team, because everybody has their job and everybody's off doing their job and people are kind of autonomous in that way. So there is room for, oh shoot, I'm trying to reach, I was gonna say a name and I realized it was actually somebody on the podcast name. I'm gonna contact Steve and tell Steve that, we shouldn't put this out yet. We need to do an edit. But Steve is asleep because the podcast comes out at 3 a.m. and he already scheduled it last night before he went to bed, or during the day, or whenever it was. So here it is now. This episode has to come out. I get that those things happen, but also then you need to be mindful of your content and listen to your episodes before they go out or something. I don't know. Because then put it out later. People will still go find it.
Of
Your
course.
episode don't have to come out at 3 o'clock.
No, it doesn't.
That's a personal choice.
Which I've never understood, but anyway.
I mean, I get that people, so I think the idea is kind of, when you're thinking about like radio and the fact that people like to listen to something on their commute. I think it's the same idea. If you put it out earlier in the day, I can listen to it while I'm on my way to work.
Sure,
If
but
not there,
2, 3, and 4 a.m. it doesn't. I don't care. I'm up at that time, so for me it's great. But I'm just saying, like, it doesn't. Especially when Patreon comes out at 8 a.m. It's like it doesn't.
well,
It's weird.
I don't understand putting out the episode behind a paywall after the main one that comes out. To me, that doesn't make a lot of
I
sense.
guess because on Patreon you get the video also, and the people waiting for free video have to wait 2 or 3 days on YouTube. I don't know.
No, but still, you would want, because the idea is everybody wants it right now. So if I was going to do a Patreon, if I had the following to do a Patreon, I would put out Patreon first, because
Yeah,
if
I agree.
my subscribers, if my listeners want my podcast as soon as they can get it, then they're
Gotta pay.
going to pay for Patreon, because they know that comes out at 5 a.m. So they can listen to it on the way to work or whatever they're doing with their day. And then maybe the regular episode doesn't come out until noon.
Right.
So everybody else has to wait. Honest, that to me, that's a smarter way to make money than
I
it does.
agree.
It doesn't make sense to me why it comes out afterwards, but that's their, listen, I don't make millions of dollars off the
Me
content
either.
I create. So maybe I have it wrong.
Right.
But yeah, to me the Patreon coming out after everybody else gets it doesn't make sense. And I think, in fact,
Mm,
that is why this is a mess. And that is why this comes up so often, because of the fact that his Patreon episodes come out after.
Right.
It should be before, just because it's logical that way.
Yeah, I'm with you, but hey, who am I? Just a brokey with a podcast.